Hello and welcome to 3ABN Today Live. It is Thursday night. Here we are in 3ABN Studios in West Frankfort, Illinois. Thank you for taking the time to join us. With me is my co-pilot. We're going to be on a 2-hour journey.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me on this flight.
Oh boy, I'm excited to be here. You're going to be blessed by this program.
Yes.
It's one of my favorites, by the way. So we just give them a sneak peek, huh?
That's right. I mean, when Sabbath afternoon comes in our home, for those of you that don't know what Sabbath is, Saturday afternoon, and this program comes on, we pause because it's our favorite program.
Yeah.
And we don't want to hold you in suspense.
No.
It's a single word, but it's far greater than just a single word. The program Lineage. And if you've seen it before, you know, and you've been moved by just the vast knowledge. And we're going to talk about that tonight in detail. We have both of two guests here tonight, which we'll introduce in just a moment.
Oh, okay.
But we want to just first of all thank you for your prayers and your financial support of 3ABN as we continue going and growing, getting ready for the most exciting event, the soon return of Jesus. You know, when we became familiar with Lineage, I think it was first on the app, I think it was the...
Well, I saw it on 3ABN.
Okay, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was
But
introduced
once we
to it.
found it, we
Yeah.
could not unfind it.
Couldn't.
Yeah, it was
stop.
we were
I
just
loved
gripped
it.
by it.
Gripped, yeah.
Let's not hold them in too much
No,
suspense. Let's just go
exactly.
ahead and introduce them.
Introduce them. Go ahead, hon.
Well, to my immediate left is Adam Ramdin.
Right.
To my immediate right. See, my arms are broken tonight. My arms. Good to hear you. Good to have you here, Adam.
Thank you for having us. Good to be here.
Yes, and Clive
the
Coutet,
voice.
right
Yep.
across from me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what would we call him? The voice
The
of Lineage?
voice of the lineage, the image of lineage.
Right. Before we go any farther into the program, just kind of give our viewers and listeners tonight a little bit about your background. And we will go into the questions about how it got started, but just kind of nutshell who you are. We know what you do, but kind of where you're from.
Personal background, I'm born and raised in England
Okay.
and grew up there for about the first 20 years of my life. I spent several years in America, then I moved back to the UK and was working for the church there as a pastor and also as an evangelism school director, and also when Lineage started, I was serving as the youth director in the North England Conference at the time. So that was my day job, so to speak, and Lineage came up as a project within that context that I was doing there. So that's my work background from England. Yeah.
Wow. And he's from Nottingham.
From Nottingham.
I was born in Derby.
Yeah,
And he's
just
from
across the road,
Nottingham, which
yeah.
is right nearby. So good to have you here.
The
good
Brits,
to be
are,
here.
the
My
Brits are in
British,
the house
the
tonight.
Brits are here.
Right. He's from England too.
Yes.
And kind of it started as a ministry, originated there in the UK.
Wow.
Because all the core members are from
Right.
the UK.
Oh.
Yeah.
I could say the UK is okay. Good to have you
You
here.
spent a bit of time there, yeah.
Yeah, oh, we love
Yeah,
it there in
yeah.
England. Her family, you still have family in
I
England.
still have two uncles. Yeah,
right.
one in Palmer's Green in London and one in Derby.
Wow.
So two left.
And Clive Coutet,
Yes.
good to have you here tonight.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having
I've
me.
met you a number of times before, but
Yeah.
let the viewers and listeners know your connection to Lineage.
So my connection to Lineage is I co-founded it with Adam. My journey kind of into media, I studied a film and video production degree at university and was kind of really struggling what to do with that. But the Lord really convicted me to start a media ministry, and fast forward a number of years, here we are. So-
He used to edit Premier League games.
Oh, really?
Like the soccer, he was helping edit that. But he always felt a burden to do something ministry-minded
Ministry,
with his
amen.
degree.
Yeah.
And so, you know.
The journey took me to this point. Yeah.
Now, you're the guy that people don't see, but you're the guy that makes people want to see.
He's the guy that makes it look good.
Yeah,
Right, I mean,
yeah.
Praise the
We
Lord.
have- it's, to be in that position, to edit a program, audio, video, just the list goes on and on. You might mention some of that during the program for those who are techie people like I am. And because it's a very gripping program, the theme music.
I know.
mean, the moment
you
it
on the
comes
edge of
on,
your seat.
you just sit down.
Yeah.
And we'll
Just
talk
want
about
to watch.
It's so good. Thank you for being here tonight. We're looking forward to a wonderful program.
Yes, we
And by the way, to those of you who
Oh,
are
questions.
tuning in, we're going to have questions the second hour. We're going to have you text those questions in. And let me see, I have the phone number and time here. Yes, if you text your questions in, if you have any questions for our guest tonight, that's 618-228-3975. That's once again 618-228-3975. or email live@3abn.org. Wow, we have a lot of exciting things coming up, honey.
Oh, yeah. Sunday, we're headed to Australia, New Zealand first.
That's right.
Greg, Jill, Tim Parton, and us, we head into where are we going?
Well, we're going to start by, if you're in New Zealand, join us at the Hamilton Central Seventh-day Adventist Church. It's Wednesday night, October 30th. Tim is going to be joining us a little later on, but it's going to be Jill and Greg and you and I, and we're going to be there on the 30th of October. And then the Bunbury Church in Western Australia.
We've been there before. We love that church.
Bunbury is the farthest, I think it's one of the farthest Seventh-day Adventist churches on the west coast of Australia. And the next stop, they tell me, if you go to the ocean, it's going to be South Africa.
South Africa.
So we're looking forward to that. And then Sabbath School on November 2nd. And by the way, the Bunbury Church is November 1st, so on a Friday evening. Then Sabbath School, November 2nd. They're also at the Bunbury Church. Then church service there, and an afternoon concert. Wow, with Tim and me and Rosemary and John. That's going to be good. And then, where are we going on November?
Adelaide, South Australia. That's Sunday, November 3rd.
Wow, we're going to be on the move.
Yeah, and then we're back to the Hamilton Church, New South Wales.
Newcastle.
Let's see, sorry, I can't.
Yeah, Hamilton Church, Newcastle, New South Wales. And we're looking forward to a wonderful time. And by the way, Hamilton SDA Church is not, they're same names, but different churches.
Okay.
And that's going to be on November 5th, on Tuesday. So if you're in the area, or if you would like to join us at any of those locations, put that in your schedule now. We're leaving on Sunday. We get there on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's going to be quite a bit of time. And some of you that have watched the program before, you might notice, wow, Pastor John looked a little darker than he normally does.
Yeah, tell them why.
You know, we were recently in Jamaica. We were in St. Elizabeth in Jamaica. And
Parish
tonight,
of St. Elizabeth.
Parish, and you're also Jamaican.
Yeah, my family's from Jamaica, Clarendon and St. Anne, but we had the privilege of ministering at the Bull Savannah Seventh-day Adventist Church last Sabbath, and you gave a concert.
That's right.
You spoke that morning, even though you got a little sick, didn't you?
Yeah, but the Lord turned it around, and we have a little picture to show you. It was Men's Day there, and there's my wife and I, and a lot of the men and the leadership of the church. It was a full house, but thank
overflow.
You. It was an overflow. 300 people outside. The church was packed. The balcony was packed.
Yeah.
And but the ministry was wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting us there.
Love my people.
That's right.
It's very special to me. So God bless you. Look forward to ministering there again.
That's right.
Sometime in the future. Okay, we have a lot to cover, don't we?
We've got a lot to cover. And you know, once again, Adam, thank you for coming. Clive, thank you for coming. And just kind of, you know, since you are the voice, we're going to kind of throw the questions out. Either one of you or both of you could contribute to the answers to the questions. Tell us, you kind of gave us a hint about Lineage beginning as a project. But I want to kind of, when did it go from a project to a life commitment? Or tell us, first of all, where did the idea come from? That's, I think, a good way to begin.
He came with the idea.
Okay.
So it was actually his idea, so maybe he should start that, and then I'll pick up as it
So
as it
I was
bumped into
actually,
me.
I was reading The Great Controversy, and I was going through the chapters, and I was trying to find really good resources that would appeal to me and my age group as I read each chapter. So I'd read, you know, chapter 14 about the English Reformers, and then I'd go online and I'd type some stuff about them, and I thought, the video content that I'm seeing is either really long or really dated, really old. And I thought, that's not going to impact my generation. And then the idea came, well, do something about it. You know, since I had a background in this, and I was living in London at the time, in England, so do something about it. So I actually approached somebody. It wasn't Adam. Maybe you can pick up from here.
Yeah, he approached whoever he approached, and then he came to me. We are actually down in London at the British Museum. Chad and Fadia Cruz, I'm guessing you know them. They were in England. They'd been preaching at camp meeting, and after camp meeting, as I was hosting the speakers, I was, you know, let's go to London. We'll show you out. So we went to London. Clive came with me as well, and we showed them around the British Museum. After we'd done this little tour, Clive came to me and he said, "Would you like to make some videos on the Great Controversy and on church history?" And it so happens that the British Museum allows you to use a tripod inside. So, you know, we can shoot with a tripod inside the British Museum. We could use some of the artifacts and make some videos that match with the book Great Controversy. And so the original idea was to shoot some videos in the British Museum and maybe John Wesley's house, just a handful of videos there in London. It wasn't a series, it wasn't, you know, doing it for 8 years. It was just shooting 5 to 10. That was the idea, like around 5 or 10 videos at the most. Shoot it there in London. There was no name to this project. There was nothing. It was just, let's just shoot a few videos here in London. It's our hometown. And then as we sat together, the idea came, well, you know, let's go to Oxford as well, and let's go to Cambridge. Let's go up to Lutterworth, John Wycliffe's church. Oh, let's go to Scotland as well. And this was in 2016. So the next year is 2017, which is the year of the 500th anniversary of the Reformation.
That's right.
And so then our creative juices start flowing, and we're like, well, actually, it's actually quite cheap for us to fly to Europe, so the continent of Europe. So why don't we go to Germany as well and Switzerland and cover some of those reformers? And the ideas just kind of start flowing, and it became this idea, well, let's just do a video every week for next year. And we'll just kind of have this going. At the time, as youth director and working with Clive, we were releasing devotional videos on Fridays. Like, you know, Prominent Speak, we get devotional, we put them on Fridays. And they were being well received back then. We'd been doing that for about 2 years, and we were also releasing sermon snippets of our camp meeting sermons on Mondays. So then we thought, oh, we've got Mondays, we've got Fridays. Let's create another series and put it on Wednesdays, so we'll just have regular content. So it was just kind of an organic idea that formed of providing another media resource to the young people in the conference, and let's do it throughout the, you know, we'll go throughout the year. And then the idea came to make it chronological, so we'll just kind of build 1 week to the next. And that was how it formed in 2016, around August, September. So we started fine-tuning the idea and, you know, putting some subjects down together, and I ran it by a few, you know, historians and speakers. What do you think about this? And yeah, we didn't really have any money at the time, but we had the vision. We didn't really have a plan either.
Just the two of you.
It was just us.
Well, the first trip was just, when we were planning it was just us.
When planning it was just us.
It was just us, but we didn't really have, you know, scripting. It was just an idea. It's supposed to be just Adam speaking to camera, and that was it. But then it just evolved over time. And then our first trip, we were going up to Scotland, which was kind of close to us. We were driving up there, and I spoke to my friend, and I was like, hey, do you want to come and help with the video and the photography? His name is Ashley, and he came, and then we were in the back of the car driving up there. He designed the logo because he's a designer. He designed the logo on our first trip up there, and then we're like, well, we need a website, and it just grew so organically. God just kind of put everything in place.
Wow, the Lord was in it. See how it pulled together?
I know.
So beautifully.
And the name kind of, we had all these different names, and we were brainstorming different names of what to do. And I was, as youth director, I had my team, and I was running names by them. And I sometimes look back at the sheet of names that we came up with. And I'm just like, wow. Those would have been terrible names. I'm so glad we didn't go with whatever. I was actually talking to a friend of mine, you may know him, Pastor Justin Kimmy is at the review now. I was brainstorming with him, and he's actually the one that kind of, well, what about Lineage? And I put that down on the list, and it became eventually became the name that we went with. So it was just kind of going.
Evolution.
Even a week before we launched, we didn't even have our own platforms, like Facebook platform, Instagram. We were just going to do anything on the NEC Youth social account, as I was youth director. And then about a week before, we sat there and we thought, well, you're not going to be youth director forever. And then, you know, you'll hand the login details to the next guy and so on. And we thought, oh, maybe we should put it on our own platform just in case, you know, to give us access forever. And then, well, okay, then so we started that. So, it just kind of, it happened organically in a sense. It wasn't, you know, sometimes these ideas, you think they come around a strategic table, and it wasn't like that. It just kind of happened, and the Lord was leading each step.
That's how you know it's the Lord.
And even to the point of the first episode that we launched, I was editing that with my wife and a friend of mine, Ashley, on the phone, on FaceTime, and we were editing it till like 3 o'clock in the morning. And just because we had this product that we'd filmed, and we didn't know what was going to come of it. So we were kind of just bouncing off each other very organically, and before you knew it, we had the first episode.
Wow.
And I remember Ashley said to me, this has come out really good, but how are you going to maintain this for so long?
Right.
But literally, God has enabled us to do that, so praise the Lord.
I'm almost scared to ask you, how many episodes have you filmed thus far?
So thus far, probably close to 300, if not more.
Ooh.
Close.
Yeah.
Close to that.
Yeah.
Now, if people only understood the man hours that it takes, let's just kind of give us an overview of what it takes. And I guess I know it also depends on where you're traveling to.
Yeah.
The travel time is one thing. That's a financial responsibility. And then getting to the location, you know, depending on how far it is.
To show video.
So, but we're going to kind of give one of the episodes there, and kind of get people that have not seen Lineage before. Let's just start with the Laodicea episode. Kind of lead us into that.
Okay, sure. The Laodicea series,
And what is Laodicea for those who may not know what that is?
Yeah.
Laodicea is an ancient city in modern-day Turkey.
Okay.
It's mentioned in the Book of Revelation, and it's one of the 7 churches that the Book of Revelation was originally sent to. So there were 7 cities, 7 churches, and John sent a letter to those churches. So in 2020, we filmed the series on the 7 churches. So we did an introductory one, and then we did an episode in each of the cities. So it was an 8-part series.
You went to each of those cities?
Yeah, we went to Turkey and we filmed there. That was during COVID. It was.
Oh yeah.
But it was during later in the year when the restrictions had lifted. So as soon as we had the opportunity, we flew over there. We filmed them. So
which was great because it was empty.
Oh yeah.
No one could travel.
No one was there.
For filming, it was the best time. Yeah,
no tourists. There were no coaches. There were no buses. We just had the place to ourselves. So the Laodicea episode was probably our 3rd or 4th series on that we'd released by the time we released the 7 churches. And to me, it's special. I like the messages to the 7 churches.
Yes.
They're messages that obviously they have a historic value.
Yeah, he did this series.
But then they have a personal application.
That's right.
And when you actually travel to the city and you see the physical features that you've either preached about or heard a preacher preach about, you know, the lukewarmness, and you hear these descriptions of the church, which also describe our own spiritual condition, it really makes Revelation come alive. And wow, you know, the hot springs are still flowing today, and it still flows out of Hierapolis.
You saw that?
Yeah, you can see the water just flowing out. It's amazing. So the Laodicea one is there's historic value, but there's also personal spiritual application in that series heavily as well.
Well, let's just dive in some of the work that Clive and Adam has done, and here is the series Laodicea.
Laodicea was located about 40 miles from Philadelphia and 100 miles east of Ephesus, and it was founded by Antiochus II and named in honor of his wife Laodicea, who incidentally later poisoned him. It was located on the Lycus River and was about 8 miles from Colossae, to whom the book of Colossians was written, and was at the crux of 2 major Roman roads. It was an incredibly wealthy city. It had a large banking center with large manufacturing interests. When Laodicea was destroyed by an earthquake in AD 60, they refused outside aid and rebuilt the city at their own expense. Such self-sufficiency was rare and made the city famous. They were also famous for a valuable wool found in the valleys that was soft in texture and black in color, which meant that Laodiceans almost exclusively wore black as evidence of their wealth. There was also an important school of medicine located in the Temple of Cairo, and connected to this school was an industry for the manufacture of a special eye medicine, collyrium, made from a famous Phrygian stone. Laodicea was a successful and well-ordered city with proud, arrogant, and self-satisfied inhabitants. They were accustomed to leisure, pleasure, and entertainment, as evidenced by the ruins of the amphitheaters which remain here to this day. Jesus begins his message to the church and gives them no affirmation. He tells them that they're neither hot nor cold, but they're lukewarm. This analogy would have been familiar to them. Hot water from the nearby springs here in Hierapolis was pumped down to them via aqueducts and pipes. Today you can see the remnants of these aqueducts and pipes with the mineral deposit inside them. By the time the water reached Laodicea, it was lukewarm, good for nothing. Lukewarm water, Jesus says, I will spew out of my mouth, and if you remain in this state, I will vomit you out. There is nothing worse than a half-hearted Christian. If you are spiritually hot, then you are on fire for God. If you are cold, then there is at least the idea that whilst you are not walking with God, you are aware that you are not. But if you are lukewarm, you think you're doing good, but the reality is far from it. Laodicea's spiritual condition was such that they think they're rich, increased with goods, and have need of nothing, but their level of self-awareness is non-existent, and they don't know that they're wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. The counsel to Laodicea is interesting in that it either included things they thought they already had or was the opposite of what they had. They were a banking center, and yet they were counseled to buy gold tried in the fire. They had an eye clinic, and yet they were told to anoint their eyes with eye salve. They prided themselves on their black clothes, and yet they were told to get white raiment. The gold tried in the fire is symbolic of faith in the furnace of affliction. The eye salve represents spiritual discernment, and the white raiment represents the righteousness of Christ that we need to clothe ourselves in. The name Laodicea means a people judged, and we take the time period for this church to be from 1844 to the Second Coming, during the time period of the judgment, and it is directly relevant to us today. The message to the Laodiceans ends with a beautiful appeal. Jesus is standing and knocking at the door of our hearts. He doesn't force his way in though. He, the person on the outside, is the one taking the initiative, pressing the door, pleading for entrance. Salvation is a personal matter, and we must open our hearts to him personally. The Bible says, if any man hears his voice and opens the door, I will come in and sup with him. Not only will he sup with us, but the Bible says we can sit on his throne with him. Jesus longs for an intimate relationship with us. If he is knocking at the door of your heart, then open the door and let him come in.
Well, if this is your first time,
Yeah.
Consider yourself a part of Lineage.
Yeah.
If you've been driving and you're not able to see that, maybe later on you could see these episodes again on 3ABN later on, or you could go to 3ABN Plus and see it on demand.
The Bible comes alive, doesn't it?
The Bible comes alive.
The lukewarm, the hot water, you said?
Fascinating.
Yeah, talk
to see
about that on the location. You see some of the things that are...
Yeah, so like Hierapolis, the city where the hot springs are, is about 5 miles from Laodicea. And then the water would have flown down the valley. And today, there's still hot water flowing out there.
And then by the time it got down there, it was lukewarm.
So you get the analogy.
Right, it's cooling off.
It's cooling off. So the analogy matches perfectly with the Bible.
Perfect. Spew you out of my mouth, the Bible says. Don't want to be lukewarm.
Wow. So, Clive, as a person who, based on what you do, I dabble, okay. But I'm understanding some of the context of the technical part of it. Just kind of talk about the kind of suites that you use to work on your project.
Yeah, so we use the Adobe Premiere Pro suite, or Adobe Creative Cloud. That includes Photoshop, After Effects. It typically takes us around 2 days. Well, it used to when we first started, it takes about 2 days to edit each episode. Each 5-minute video takes about 2 days. But over time, we've refined the process. We've, made it quicker and faster because we've done it so many times. So now, typically from beginning to end, it'll take us about a day.
About a day.
Yeah.
That's good.
For 5 minutes, so.
But see, so I'm glad you mentioned that because my wife sometimes says, it's only 5 minutes long, what's taking you so long?
He needs time,
He put something together, went to where were we? Indonesia.
Right.
Putting a little clip together. Oh.
She said, it's taking you so long. I said, honey, this is 7 minutes.
You should probably spend some time with my wife. We can just edit together.
Yeah. Now, What partnership have you had with other organizations, and how has it benefited you both?
Okay, some of the partnerships have come, I guess, in more recent years, and they have been a real blessing. One of the more recent ones, we did do a partnership maybe in the last 2 years with an organization called Streams of Light.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
You're familiar with their organization.
Absolutely.
Their mission is
We've
quite
interviewed
singular in some ways. It's to get the book Great Controversy
Yes.
into as many homes as possible.
Yes.
And so they approached us, and they do mass distribution projects of Great Controversies around America and other parts of the world. And they had QR codes in their books, but the QR codes took, at the time, a couple of years ago, would take the viewer to maybe a sermon or something like that. But they wanted something that was a little bit more shorter. Some of their QR codes came to the early Lineage episodes that we did in season 1, but then we only really covered maybe the first 17 chapters of the book Great Controversy. We didn't go beyond. So they came to us and said, would you like to redo them, but this time intentionally do every single chapter of the book Great Controversy.
Wow.
And so we had the opportunity to
project.
work with them. And that was a fun project. So we
Did
reshot.
you do it?
Yeah, we did it.
We reshot some of the early episodes that Clive wasn't happy with because of the editing, or
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with because of the early scripting. So we kind of reshot some of those early ones.
I will say that was our hardest series to do. It just felt like everything was always going wrong.
Just like when she wrote the book.
You're right. Right before we were about to film, Adam broke his arm. He fell over, broke his arm, so we had to
What?
postpone the filming.
No, we didn't.
Oh no, yeah, we didn't.
So I broke my arm like a week before we filmed. And then Clive's like, oh, it doesn't matter, we can still film. So we did the whole 2 weeks of filming with this broken arm, and it's painful if you've broken a hand. And then when he came to edit, he's like, yeah, we can't use this. It doesn't look good.
Just didn't look right. You got an eternal message,
Yeah.
and you wanted to present it in the right way.
I can't have an episode on heaven with a broken arm.
Yeah, so we just said, let's just
true.
redo it. It's going to take us a bit more time,
Yeah.
but then we're going to come out with a product that is done well and can last eternity.
That's right. And that's
Not just that, though. We had loads of flight cancellations and just issues that we've never had. And it just felt more oppressive, so to speak, or more
Great Controversy.
with the Great Controversy.
Yeah, it was the controversy over the Great Controversy.
It
So
was.
So that was one of the partnerships we did. We also
yes.
did a partnership with ASI. They asked us to do
We
a
saw
video,
you at ASI.
Trailblazers, on the history of ASI. So we did that one with them, and that was a fun project to work on as well. And just
What do you
telling-
mean the history of ASI?
So we started with the early origins of ASI with Madison
Really?
College, and then we kind of
Yes.
followed the journey
In
through the
Tennessee,
children of Madison, and then the various ministries that have started since then, and then what ASI is today in terms of how it helps to enable and empower ministries and also people to share Christ in the marketplace. We shared some of those stories and testimonies in a project that we did with them. So that was another kind
So
of,
you're part of ASI, aren't you?
yeah.
Amen. Wonderful.
What's nice about the work that you're doing and the quality of it gives it longevity. And I like that you mentioned earlier your generation. And young people, I mean, the media world we're living in, the competition is great. When you look at anything on, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or wherever you're getting that media from, immediately in the first 5 or 10 seconds, if you don't have that person's attention, it's like, well, it's kind of religious, I
move
don't want
on.
to watch it.
Yeah.
That's why I like Lineage. It grabs you right away.
Instantly.
And not that it's a bad thing, but you don't dress up for it. It just gives it a contemporary feel.
I like that,
And
yeah.
people say, I like this guy. He doesn't have on a suit and tie. Maybe he does. Maybe he is smart. This is a different generation.
There's been a few times I've been in church and preached and shared about Lineage, and people have come up to me afterwards and they're like, yeah, you look like him. It's like, yeah.
You're in a tie.
Do you want me to put the hat on? And
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
You
Let me
have
take
an
off my
hat.
tie.
Yeah.
You sound like him.
But just to say, exactly what you said, that was intentional. We wanted it to be fast-paced. We
The way
knew
it's edited.
when we first started, we spoke about having 1 to 3 seconds to grab someone's attention.
That's right.
That's why it's intentional with the way it starts so rapidly, because we really want to grab that person's attention and get them to watch the whole video.
Scrolling, you just.
And while they're scrolling, they just see the first clips and are interested in watching it. And this was, 8 years ago that we started this? Now that attention span's dropped even more, So we've had to kind of adapt and do some even shorter content, 1 minute long and 30 seconds long. And,
Do you have those? Do you have?
They're more for our social media, Instagram and
Right.
Facebook. Yeah, very short
Shorts.
videos.
Do you
yeah.
have a lot
Literally
of
short.
viewers?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing. So in addition to the video projects, what other resources does Lineage have? Talk about some of those resources.
So
just talking about the Great Controversy.
Yes.
When we built the videos, we thought, well, if someone is seeing this video for the first time, they may want to know more information, like some of the historical facts. So actually, if you go to our website, and we have a whole study section where you can actually go through the Great Controversy, historical data, see book resources, watch the videos, watch related videos, read the chapter on the website if you want to as well.
Oh.
So we've kind of built this whole platform built around just the book Great Controversy.
Remember we were showing this at church, the lineage between Sabbath school and church?
Yeah,
Show snippets
right. We
of
were
it.
showing that at our church.
Okay.
Our Sabbath school had 5-minute episodes at the end of all of our Sabbath school study time. Really, really good. I always heard it. And then finally they put a television backstage so I could see it. While everybody else was seeing it. Because I really, really enjoyed that.
So
Go on.
Yeah,
No,
go
you
ahead.
I was going to say, we do have some more resources. Are you going to talk about some of those?
yeah, we've got some books, original stuff that we've. So as Clive mentioned, one of the guy who designed our logo, Ashley, he's a, what would you say he is?
It's an illustrator.
Illustrator.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Illustrator.
yeah,
So
yes,
he does,
yeah.
like if you, he'd be sitting there, he'd be with his iPad and his pen, and he'll just come up with this amazing drawing.
Wow.
Just, you know,
How many in your team?
in the team, good question. There's about, no, there's 10 of us.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's 10 of us in the team, and it's really been that way since 2017, really.
Yes.
And the team, just a little bit on that, it just formed organically too. I mean,
Yeah.
it was people that we knew.
Yeah.
About 8 of the people is people that we know. 2 of the people,
Contact us out of the blue.
one of them contacted us out of the blue, the other one I knew but contacted me out of the blue. So it kind of all just kind of came together. The people in England were people that we just asked to come on a filming trip, and back then we've got no money.
Yes.
Like, we're broke. Like, I can promise to give you a bed and travel, and
Sometimes not even that though.
No.
No, just one of our
feed you.
and feed you. One of our sound engineers, Anton.
Yes.
We first started because we were so limited on budget that we needed an extra driver. So I called Anton and I said, "Hey Anton, can you do a shift with us because he's a driver?"
We were driving.
We were driving through the night
2
up
nights.
to Scotland, up to a little island called Iona. So I said, "Hey, can you come along?" It'll be myself, Anton, my wife, and Adam. So Anton was like, "Okay, I'll come." And I knew that Iona was windy. So I was like, "Hey, it's going to be windy. Can you just bring your boom mic as well, just to help out if you can?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So he comes, he does the sounds, loved the project, and then he's in. He just
hooked.
organically just joined the team like that. It wasn't like there was no finances put down. It
Right.
wasn't a contract. It was just like very organic. And that I can tell you a story about every single one in the team who kind of started that way.
And everyone joined, not for pay, or no one said, "Oh, how much am I getting?" or anything, but they just joined to join and had a passion for the project, and that's kind of special, because even though the ministry has grown a little bit since then, and the Lord's blessed us in some ways, the core team is all people that joined just out of a passion and a burden to join. And so anyway, so that's most of the guys in the team, and then a few of them joined just.
Is it all a guy team?
No. So our writer, who writes our website content
Yes.
and the books that I'll mention in just a minute, she's from Australia. Her name's Suki. And then my wife's on the team, Clive's wife's on the team as well.
Yes.
Aiko and Charlene are both on the team.
So you travel together?
When we can, not always. Sometimes it's just me and Clive. Sometimes it's 3 of us. Sometimes it's 5 of us. Sometimes it's more. It kind of varies on who's available.
And how long we're going for as well.
How long we're going for and
Oh,
what we need to do
yeah.
when we get there.
How many countries have you been to?
That's a good question.
I've never counted.
Never counted.
We have to look at the episodes and start counting.
Yeah.
Count.
If a viewer can tell us that, we can give them a free gift.
Now, is there headquarters?
We're very
My bedroom.
like, there's no physical headquarters, because I'm based in England. He lives in California. Jasper, who's one of our videographers, lives in the Philippines. Suki is our writer, lives in Australia. So we're kind
This
of
is totally contemporary.
we're very.
This is what you call.
We have a Slack channel.
Okay.
We have a channel on Slack, and we do our projects on there, communicate on there, and we meet once a month virtually.
do,
But we've never had the whole team in one place at
At
the same time.
I'll say to our audience, welcome to the modern order of things. I mean, that's really how the world is nowadays.
Yeah.
It is.
By Zoom, by whatever kind of media that connects you together. And that quick response And but now, as far as editing, are you the chief editor, or you have other people editing with you?
So I do most of the episode editing, but we do get help on some of our behind-the-scenes videos. Eden is the guy who does that for us, and he travels with us sometimes. And again, he had another organic story of how he joined. But most of the episode editing that you'll see would be myself, and I would say myself and my wife, because my wife, she fixes my mistakes.
Oh, she edits also.
So she checks it, she checks
Women
the videos.
do that, right?
And,
No, seriously, because sometimes you're looking at something so long that it just kind of blends in. And my wife says, you're missing a letter on that word.
Yeah, exactly.
Y-O-U, you forgot R.
Yeah. My biggest Achilles heel is I leave the R out on the word your. But she finds that she's very, very good at that. But now let's talk about another one, because we just looked at Laodicea. Let's talk about John on Patmos.
Okay.
You went there?
Yeah, I mean,
I always want to go
special.
there.
So in terms of the chronology of Lineage, our first series was on the Reformation. That was season 1.
Yes.
We did that in 2017. And that kind of started in the early church. It went all the way through to John Wesley, the birth of missions, and so on. So in our second series, as we were doing that one, we're like, oh, we need to do Adventism, which comes after that, and early religion in America.
Right.
So then we kind of just chronologically kept going. We did the birth and the rise of Adventism in America and its expansion around the world.
Right.
So that took us to, up to Ellen White and so on.
Ooh.
Then for our third season, we went back in time. And this is kind of where I say, if we'd done it strategically, we would have done that one probably first. But the Lord just, his plans. I think. So the third season was, wanted to follow the series of books, Conflict of the Ages.
Wow.
So we wanted to do videos on Patriarchs and Prophets, which is early Old Testament, then Prophets and Kings, latter Old Testament.
Even
we call them
Desire of
different. So we
Ages?
called Patriarchs and Prophets, we call that from creation to Kings.
Yes.
Pentecost, Prophets and Kings, we call from Kings to
captivity.
Yes.
Desire of Ages, we call from manger to Messiah. And then Acts of the Apostles, we call from Pentecost to Patmos.
Oh, I love the
And
titles.
So Patmos was our final episode in that series that covered the history of the Bible. It wasn't an archaeological series, because I'm not an archaeologist.
Right.
It was more telling the story
Documentary.
of the Bible on location.
Okay.
And so just summarizing, where there was irrefutable archaeological evidence that I could point to, we'd reference it, but it wasn't primarily aiming to be that.
Right.
It was more telling the story, the narrative of the great controversy through Scripture, from Genesis all the way through to Revelation or Patmos.
It's an aggressive, committed project.
It is.
But one of the things that, and I believe somebody in our audience might identify with this, I know we identify with that, we can't wait to see where you're next. In every episode,
I know.
where are they now? Where are they now? And that's kind of like the drawing factor. It's like,
We love that.
Wow, we heard about that. Look, it actually does exist. And so
I think
that's just...
to us, that's one of
that's
the
an
major
attraction.
things in that. And I'm saying this in a studio, but we're not shooting what we're shooting in a studio. We're not shooting it with a green screen behind
Right.
it, so to speak. One of the draws, I think, is that we are on location.
Right.
And so for a lot of people, we recognize they can't go there. A lot of people aren't able to go or haven't the opportunity to go to Patmos. So by seeing the video and seeing it's a real place, and what it would have looked like, and when John was there. So Patmos was special for me to go there, and just kind of, we were there on the Sabbath as well.
Oh,
So
how
we just
special.
Sometimes you can read the Bible and you don't remember or realize that these places exist even till today.
Yes.
So just bringing that to life and showing the young people, like, it's not a book full of fables. Laodicea exists, Jerusalem exists.
Yes.
All of these different locations in the Bible, they're there today. And it was special. It was special for me to go to these places and document them. But just bringing that to life is really what attracted us to it.
Okay.
Now the
So give us-
Waldenses, you did that too, didn't you? I love that.
Yeah, so
go
give
ahead.
us the lead into what we're going to see on John
Okay.
on Patmos.
Yeah, so the Patmos one is the episode, it's the conclusive episode, on the final episode in that series. And we're telling the story of John as he would have written the book of Revelation, as he was isolated there on that rocky island of Patmos.
Okay. Well, let's look at this. John on Patmos.
Okay.
John had a special place in Jesus' heart, for scripture notes that he was the disciple whom Jesus loved. John shared experiences with Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane and on the Mount of Transfiguration, and he was the disciple whom Jesus entrusted the care of his mother to when he was on the cross. John had defects of character that earned him the nickname the Son of Thunder, and Jesus saw that he needed his mother's influence to soften his coarse and rough edges. John was ambitious for power, vengeful, critical, and impetuous, yet he had great potential and would go on to be the longest living disciple. The book of Acts mentions that John was present during Pentecost, but after that he barely gets a mention in scripture. Whilst the other disciples were literally traveling the then known world, Thomas was preaching the gospel in India, Peter was in Rome. John has several decades of his life where there is very little written. He was looking after Jesus' mother. It would not have been easy to stay at home, so to speak, but John needed his own version of a wilderness experience. We are told that Peter was crucified upside down, Thomas was pierced with a spear, Luke was hung from an olive tree, and Bartholomew, Simon, Philip, and Jude were beheaded. But John was the only apostle to die of natural causes. This was, however, due to the miraculous power of God, as Tertullian, writing in AD 200, said,
"At Rome, the apostle John, having been immersed in hot oil, suffered no harm at all. This attempt to boil him alive did not work and is alleged to have happened behind me. He would go on to continue as the head of the church in Ephesus before being banished to Patmos."
This rocky island was chosen by the Roman government as a place of banishment for criminals, and here, away from the busyness of life, John received visions from heaven that outlined the closing scenes of this earth's history. Here, amidst the rocks and cliffs, John held communion with God as he was able to meditate on the book of nature and marvel at God's goodness. When John was here, he was in the closing twilight years of his life, thought by some to be past useful service, an old man. But it was here that he received more communication from heaven than he had during all his former years. The book of Revelation is written in signs and symbols and needs to be decoded in order to be fully understood. The purpose of this is twofold. Firstly, to protect and preserve it from the ruling power in John's day, and secondly, to ensure that those who wish to understand it actually study and dig deep. Revelation contains many messages that have relevance for our time today, and it has helped and continues to help the church to understand where it comes from and where it's going. If you have not yet read the book of Revelation, I urge you to start, for it begins with a blessing to all those who read and understand it. Here on the Isle of Patmos, John finally had time to write, and it is here where he wrote the Gospel of John and also the book of Revelation. John was able to turn a negative situation into a blessing for himself and the Christian church in ages to follow. It is traditionally believed that he received his visions in the cave of the Apocalypse, but we really don't know where he received his visions. Today the island is populated, but back then it would have been a barren place, but also a beautiful place, and a place where John was able to commune with God. Here on the Isle of Patmos, John experienced trials and obstacles, but these could not shake his faith. He had developed a deep and a pure love for God and urged in his writings, "Beloved, let us love God," and reiterated the point that we ought not love in word, but in deed. John lived a long and faithful life, and at the end of his life he came to realize that the most important thing is to love God and love one another. John says, "A new commandment I give unto you,
that you love one another as I have loved you. And later on he said, beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. May we be faithful to God and serve him amidst the trials and adverse circumstances that come our way. And may we reflect on and live out the words of John, to love one another.
Well, the reason I like Revelation is because it says, I, John saw. So, but no, it's a beautiful book. And the sad reality is many in the Christian world think it is a book that's still closed. But as we've seen by illustration, we know it's not a closed book. Its very name means to revelation, to reveal.
Christ, yes.
How touching is this for you? Because you're bringing us into this vicariously.
Yeah, yeah.
But what is it doing to you while you're there?
I know.
To me, it was special. Like some sites are more special than others to visit, and to me, Patmos was one of the most special because it's the place where John wrote the book of Revelation.
Yes.
And it's the place where you read, "I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day."
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Right.
And while I was there, I'm wondering, like where was he? And there is technically, I mean, there is traditionally a cave where they say he had it, but I'm like, how do they know he had the cave?
Know.
They built a monastery on top of it.
Oh.
Right, to claim that.
I like to imagine he was on a rocky edge somewhere.
Thank
Right.
you.
Was
Me too.
on a beach maybe somewhere, and he goes into vision. And so we actually went there on the Friday and we left on the Sunday. So sandwiched in the middle, we had Sabbath there, and it was just special to just meditate, read the book of Revelation, have some quiet time, go on a hike there, and just be like, this is the place where Revelation was written, and it's the place where God met with him.
Yes.
And for me, that was really, of all the places we go, I mean, some of them, they say traditionally this happened, but whereas you can't move the island. You
can't.
know that is the
That's
island of
right.
Patmos. It did happen there. And so it does make an impact on you when you go to places, I think, that are authentic. And for sure something of importance happened there.
As you mentioned, I feel like I'm there with you on that journey, and I'm sure many of you feel that same way. Like, you're there, come with me, and it's just beautiful.
So it was great to be able to share that with other people.
Yes.
And let people see.
That's wonderful. And but we want to remind our audience about how.
Yeah. If you want to write in, or if you want to text. If you want to text us, you can text us at 618-228-3975 if you have a question for these two wonderful gentlemen, or you can send an email live@3abn.org. So send some questions in.
When I look at the evolution, the growth, the expansion of this project, at what point did you realize how large the project is, and how did it metamorphosize from, let's do that, to where it is today?
Some of that, to a certain degree, happened when we released the first episode. Because for me, I'm recording a video on history.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how Clive was going to edit it. No idea. He's not shown me, I just spoke the video. I assumed he's just going to have the video of me talking to the camera, and that's it. And then when he showed me the first thing, it's like, boom, 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 and all, as it is with the drone shots.
Right.
So
yeah.
Wow, this is pretty good. It's pretty good. But then when we released it, when I first kind of got an idea was when the algorithm was different then. When on Facebook, it just got share after share after share after share after share after share. I forget how many it was, about 900 shares the first episode, and I was just like, oh wow,
there's something to this.
Like maybe this is scratching an itch that we didn't know was as itchy as we thought it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it wasn't just the graphics or the visuals, but I think the idea, and this really is what inspired the idea of Lineage and has metamorphosized to a certain degree, the idea of understanding our identity through our history.
Right.
And I think this is something very important. The world is going through an identity crisis. Young people are going through an identity crisis. I mean, the causes of that we can debate on, and there's many factors as to why there's such an identity crisis, particularly amongst teenagers and young adults. But understanding where we come from and what our heritage and what our background and history is one of the ways to help us understand what our identity is today.
That's right.
And I think without knowing it at the time, Lineage helped with that. It's like, oh, that's where we come from.
Yes.
So that's part of who I am today. And it really, and so back to your question as where do we know it would kind of grow?
Oh, yeah.
Initially got an idea then, but as it went on, we had more ideas. And as we have ideas, as creatives getting ideas, and as the Lord provided a little bit of resources to do it, like, well, as He provides resources and as we have ideas, let's keep going.
That's right.
And so we kept going. There's ideas and there's a little bit of resources to keep going, and so we've just kind of carried that on as we have ideas. And so we started as a project, but now we've moved into
the ministry
phase. Yeah, that kind of happened. So we were a project in 2017. We became a ministry towards the end of about around 2019, and that's when we kind of said, become our own entity. And
now you did the whole book of Great Controversy?
We did do that, yeah, every chapter.
Now, some people haven't even read the whole book, and you did it through a video series.
That's a good way of reading it, too.
Some people have said that to us. They've said, hey, I've always tried to read this.
Yeah.
But, I've read the Destruction of Jerusalem chapter 1 like 20 times, but never can get past that.
Yeah.
But watching the videos, they're able to get through the whole book just by summarizing it up in a video.
How long each episode?
They're just
5 minutes,
6,
yeah.
Most 5 or 6 minutes. A few of the chapters in Great Controversy, a few of them were longer than our typical. Some of them went to 7 or 8 minutes, but
that's not
normally
bad.
It's 5 or 6 minutes, generally speaking. And that's kind of been the sweet spot that we've kind of settled on.
How long does it take to do 5 or 6 minutes?
A day now.
About a day, yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because the Great Controversy sometimes was a little bit more challenging, because especially the first part of the book, you have actual locations. You have, the French Reformation. Well, we're going to do that in France. We're going to do that in Paris.
Right.
But the later chapters were harder.
The later chapters, the Second Coming, or some of the later ones. Where do you do those? So we had to be a little bit creative as to where we shot some of those things to kind of bring them to life.
So we did Heaven in Hawaii.
Oh, it's a good place to do heaven.
We did Hell in Hawaii too.
Yeah.
You did hell too?
The volcano.
Oh, the volcanoes,
Right,
that's right,
yes.
Yeah.
You did hell too.
Well, the 1,000 years of desolation.
Yeah.
Right, because you have the volcanoes.
You have the volcanoes, right. So
That's really
we're able
Heaven
to hit 2 birds with 1 stone.
Heaven and hell.
Heaven and hell.
People that have gone to Hawaii probably said that's true. You could have heaven and hell in Hawaii. But the reality of it is the community of people that are watching Lineage are being affected in a positive way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, wow. And for us, honestly, our weeks are so busy when Sabbath afternoon comes at home. And even if we're like maybe finishing lunch at home or whatever, the time it comes on is just perfect. It really pulls us into it.
Praise the Lord.
It's going to be a wonderful. And we've walked past each other at ASI. You're busy at ASI, I'm busy at ASI. But those who are watching the program, and I could imagine that you probably have stories that you can tell that when you rewind the videotape, no pun intended, we don't do videotapes any longer, but when you rewind your journeys, you've seen miracles along the way. Can you think of one of those miracles you might want to share this side of the program before we go to our second hour?
Recently we were filming in Rome, and we kind of packed all our stuff in England we call it the boot.
Yeah,
but over here you call it the trunk.
Yeah.
So we put the stuff in the back, and the car was sealed up. We had cameras, drone, laptops, all in the back.
Wow.
We went off to film.
Vatican.
We went to the Vatican to film, and we were out for most of the afternoon. By the time we came back, it was dark, and we walked up towards the car, and the window had been smashed in.
Oh no.
And we're thinking, oh no. And then we saw that the seat had been put down. So whoever has gone in has gone and taken all our stuff in the back.
Right.
Then we turned the corner and looked in. The window smashed, the seat is down, and all our stuff is in plain sight for everybody to see. We had the drone, we had the cameras, we had bags, we had laptop, all on full view. So even if the thief
Once the seat was down.
Once the seat was down.
Right. Yeah.
So even if the person who broke in got disturbed and ran off, people walking down the street had plain sight view of all of our stuff, and nothing got taken.
Angels blocked it.
Angels blocked it.
The value of what was in that trunk is inestimable.
Yeah, well, you can put a value on
The equipment.
on the equipment, but can you put a value on what you filmed?
No.
And
No.
how do you get that back? You have to go do all that again. But everything was there. Nothing was missing. It was
I could only imagine your heart rate when you
yeah, it went up and went down.
It's like you lean on the car and think, thank you,
Yeah.
Lord.
Oh.
That is a miracle, honestly, because the enemy would do whatever he can to stop such a project. But the Lord was showing you that the Lord is with you on the front lines and is really, really with you. Now, we want to tease a little bit to the second hour because just to remind our viewers again, you can text us at 618-228-3975. That is if you have a question or a comment, or you can send a question by email live at 3abn.tv. And in the second hour, we're going to have some more videos about the French Reformation, liberty of conscience threatened, which is a very big issue today. A snippet on AI translation episode, because we're living in a day and age where...
That's fascinating how we're using AI to translate into different languages. So, you know, I'm speaking other languages, but I'm not speaking them. So it's fascinating to see and see how that's spreading to other places as well.
And also the English reformers, that's going to be in the language Portuguese. And we're going to talk about that the second hour. And AI is phenomenal. But, you know, you've just gotten a chance to peek into the Lineage window. If you are a follower, then you know. But if you're not, I think you're going to become one. And we have a second hour where there's a lot more to cover, a lot more questions, a lot more miracle stories.
Gonna be
and
good.
it's going to be good as it has been. So don't go away. We are going to be right back in just a few moments. Well, welcome back to the second hour of a very exciting, very informative, very engaging program, Lineage.
Yeah.
And if you missed the first hour, you're going to have to catch it on the replay or a couple of days from now.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Lineage, a ministry that grew from a fledgling idea to now more than 300 episodes. And we have with us today Adam.
A blessing, hasn't it?
The word blessing is probably, it needs more letters. Because this is just, it's transforming. I mean, Adam
Ramdin.
and Clive Coutet.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, that's just, I worked so hard on remembering your name, I forgot his.
Now, do you both have families?
We do, yeah.
Tell us about them.
So I married 11 years ago this coming Sunday.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
And I
Happy
have two children,
anniversary.
a son who's 5 and a daughter who's 2, Enoch and Eden.
Oh, I like the name.
Yeah, they're here with me as well.
Oh, they're here.
Wonderful.
And I have been married for 12 years last month.
Okay.
And I have a beautiful wife and 4 kids.
She
think
British?
She is, yes.
I think we
thought
met
so.
your wife.
I did
Yes,
too.
you did meet my wife, yes.
Yeah.
you did
Yeah,
meet my wife.
okay.
So I have, my eldest is a daughter, and then I have 3 boys.
Oh, nice.
Wonderful. And so when you say your generation, you're a young man, but you're a dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said his generation. And, but thank you for contributing to the generations that need this kind of media. But I just want to also let you know this is climbing over generations because it's
Absolutely.
really every level, every class. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. And young people, especially young Adventists, they need to hear this about the roots, not just Adventist roots, but the Bible roots.
Christian roots.
Christian
Bible
roots, yeah.
Identity.
Identity.
Now, how have you connected? Because I know that we're talking about a lot of what you cover, like the book of Revelation is not an Adventist book.
Yeah.
It's a book in the Bible, the last book of the Bible. Have you received input from people of different walks of life that have watched your series?
We do, and that's an interesting question because we do hear a lot of people that watch Lineage in churches or they watch it in schools. We do hear some of those stories within, Seventh-day Adventists and so on.
Yes.
But we also have heard stories of people who've watched it outside of maybe our immediate faith community. One of them is a story that comes from California, actually, and it's connected to 3ABN, but I'll let Clive share it because he's the one who who connected.
Yeah, last time we came up on the show, I think it was 2019. On the roll, we didn't have a ministry phone number. Oh. So it was actually my personal number. So I was getting calls from different people, but that was a blessing. But one day I was sitting at my work, at my desk, because Lineage was a side project back then, and I got a phone call, and I picked up the phone. I looked at the number first, and I didn't quite recognize it, and I picked it up, and it was a machine, and the machine said, this is a collect call. This person at this prison would like to speak to you. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm racking my brains, and I'm like, I've not been in the US too long. I don't really know anyone in prison. If it was the UK, I'd probably understand, but I don't really know anyone in the US. But I'll just take the call. I took it, and then it was a guy who picked up, and he said, I'm so-and-so in prison in California, and we have really enjoyed watching your show on 3ABN.
Amen.
And I think something's happened with the schedule, and we're no longer able to watch it. And I have a group of about 20 to 25 people who are studying the Bible, and we were able to watch your episodes. Would it be possible to donate some of your resources, some books, some DVDs, or your videos to the prison, so that we're able to continue studying it with the inmates?
They can watch it on demand.
They can watch it on demand. They said there's about 60 people in the prison who don't have anything to do and are looking for stuff to digest. Mm-hmm. So he gave me the chaplain's phone number. I contacted the chaplain and arranged to send resources. The chaplain was a Catholic, actually, but he still accepted the resources. And then about 2 weeks later, the guy from the prison called me back again, and he said, we still haven't received the items. Did you send them? And I was like, yeah, I sent them. Another 2 weeks passed. He called me back again. Did you send the items? Like, these guys were hungry for the word. And I said, I sent them. And he said, I think they've gone missing somewhere. And would you be able to send them again? And I said, well, let's give it a few more days. And then if nothing comes forward again, you can call me back. By the way, he only had 2-minute phone calls once a week. And he was using them on me.
Wow.
And just to get these resources. So eventually he called me really excited, saying, we got the resources, they cleared. Because I think when you send a package to the prison, they have to be checked, and all the content has to be checked. And I'm guessing the guards would have to watch some of that stuff as well. But eventually it all got cleared, and they were able to study it. And he was just so praising the Lord that he was able to find this content, study through the Great Controversy, study through some of the Reformation, Adventist history, and all started by him watching, or somehow in the prison being able to watch 3ABN.
Wow.
And
Look at that.
You asked the question, when did you realize this came big? For me, it's when I hear stories like that.
Right.
Because it's like, here at 3ABN, this as well. You have no idea how far the media can go.
No.
You have no idea who's home, or what YouTube channel, or a prison, or what country. The work you do is almost a thankless job because you don't know, but those stories are really what fire us and keep us going.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, when we meet people in our travels, we just kind of funny story out along the same lines. We were in Jamaica recently, and we were in a place called YS Falls, which is a very inland falls.
Yes.
And we're coming down the falls, my wife and her sister ahead of us, and other people. All of a sudden, this guy says, "Oh my, what are you doing here?" And I thought, he caught me off guard. He says, "I watch you all the time on 3ABN. What are you doing here in Jamaica?" And you realize we are inland in Jamaica, up in the mountains at YS Falls.
The falls.
And you realize, even among the young people, because a lot of times people say, well, 3ABN is for a certain age group, but not everybody watches it. This guy had to be about 15 or 16 years old. He said, hey, wait, can I take a picture with you? And he's soaking wet, and there's this camera, and you realize it's getting everywhere. And we travel around the world, and the stories are that way. And that's why Lineage, going through the window of 3ABN. As a matter of fact, kind of go back, when did you connect with 3ABN and remember having your programs started to be seen through 3ABN?
2018 and 19, I think it was around then, I think, that we had a first interview on 3ABN. I think it was 2018, the first interview on 3ABN. We had another one in 2019, and I think 3ABN started showing around that time as well, broadcasting the episodes back then. So we've been really blessed by 3ABN showing the episodes, and
Oh,
the breadth
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
breadth of that.
Yeah,
that-
great
that-
coverage.
Yeah, it's been a real blessing
ABN.
to us. And yeah, I mean, back to your other questions about it going outside. There's another story as well with
Yes.
well, there's a couple of them actually. I'll just share one of them, and that is we know a lot of Christian schools or a lot of our own church schools show the episodes, whether, we have friends who are teachers and they use those episodes in class. But it's happened 5 times that it's come to me. I've been in England where I've been approached 3 times in churches, and these are Adventist children who are going to a public school, and as they're there in the public school, the teachers have used Lineage in the classroom, religion class or history class in a public school. And then it was last year as well, one of our team members in Australia, she goes to church, and 2 girls came to church on Sabbath. One of them goes to a Catholic school, one of them goes to an Anglican school, Adventist girls, but one goes to an Anglican or Episcopalian, as they say here, school, one goes to a Catholic school, and they came to her and they said, "Hey, Suki, the teachers are using Lineage in our class curriculum." Ooh. And she's like, "Oh, really? Did you tell the teacher about it? Like, you told the teacher?" She said, "No, we didn't tell the teacher anything. The teacher found the resources online and put it in the class curriculum." So we've heard a few stories, and that's only when an Adventist student is in the class who knows one of us and comes and tells us. Wow. So we think that maybe it's happening more than that, but we just don't know because they don't tell us. Right. So we don't know. We did some work on our website trying to optimize the back end and
you have a wonderful website.
Help to rank higher on the Google searches, and I think that has helped out with, people, teachers, and looking for resources can find it.
So
and that's another, and that's part of the reason why it's only 5 minutes, because then a teacher can easily just slip it into a class. It doesn't change
the complete dynamics of the lesson plan. Yeah. But speaking to that, that's why maintaining the legitimacy of the chronology of the events that are taking place, the pictures, the locations, and that's another bit of time, because when you start looking at, okay, we're going to be going to this particular location, what historical credibility can we add, can we maintain in finding dates, because people check it out.
They do.
That's for sure. I mean, you slip and they say, well, no, that's not the right date. And so thank you for that. That I know is just the accuracy.
The fact checking.
Yeah, we've been to a few places where you kind of know the history through the spirit of prophecy in the Bible, and you can kind of know what took place, and then you're reading the artifacts in this actual location. You're like, well, that's not quite how it happened. This has been transformed to being something that was Protestantism to almost something that was Catholic. So, it really helps to have all the book references, to have all those things, all the photos, the videos, and really transport people to those locations.
Okay. Well, here's somebody, I think this is a question. This is Mark. He says, the Lineage team is fantastic. I love your programs. Please provide a program, on the origin of the term Shekinah, used by Ellen White. Then he wrote, "Bless you in Jesus' name, Mark." The Shekinah, that's interesting.
Shekinah glory.
Yeah.
No, maybe we can do that sometime. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
So now talk about some of the resources, because you want to talk about some of the books that you have that are connected.
So we have a few, probably, as Lineage we've made 3 of our own, and then one of our team members has also written 2 that we distribute as well. So the 3 we've made are 2 educational coloring books, which one of our team members, who's an illustrator, drew all the...
It's on your website?
It's on the website, yeah.
Do we have a graphic of that?
No, not the coloring book.
Not the coloring book. But that's... So each page is original artwork, then there's a write-up next to it, there's a fun fact, there's a QR code, so when they're coloring they can scan the code and go to the video that connects with the story. So we have a book on the Reformation history, we have a book on Adventism. They're not thick, they're just thin coloring books for, I won't say children, but for people, anyone who wants to draw. So they're educational coloring books. Then we have another book called Bringers of the Dawn. This one we released in 2021, I think. And that book is like a study guide. So it mirrors season 1, which was our season on the early church and the Reformation. There's 48 or 49 chapters in that book. Each chapter is about 3 or 5 pages long. There's pictures in there, original pictures that we've taken. And at the end of each chapter, there's about 5 questions that are discussion or reflection questions. And then there's also a QR code that you can scan that will take you to the video. Originally, we made this book as a digital resource. It's on the Apple iBook store,
right.
and you can download an iBook there. But then we put it into print form, and it's.
We have a graphic of that one.
Okay, let's bring that graphic up.
Yeah, we have a graphic of that one.
Oh,
And
you do?
I kind of wanted to touch.
Here it is. Is that it?
Oh, Bringers of the Dawn.
Bringers of the Dawn.
There we go.
Okay.
Oh, there's
And-
books.
So it's in 4.
Lineage.
Okay, that's the book itself standing on the.
Yeah, just one single book. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, look at
And
that.
and that's another expense. We're going to talk about that before the end of the program on how you could support this ministry, because to say that support is a worthy factor for what you do is an understatement. And we know it takes the maintenance of equipment, the updating of equipment. You know, laptops, they come out really fast, and after a while, technology just metamorphosizes into say, well, we need more RAM, we need newer lenses, something needs to be updated. And so just kind of give us an overview of how this is maintained. I mean, maintenance, because as you mentioned earlier in the program, it's expensive, and the team has never been in the same location at the same time.
It'd be nice if we could.
Where do you guys need to have your own camp meeting, or just like your own
Training session.
training session where you said, oh, come on, why don't you all meet us at 3 a.m. and go to worship
Yeah, it'd be
center?
nice. Yeah.
And, but talk about where's all the equipment housed? I mean, how's it when you get together to do a shoot? Okay, bring this and you bring that.
Right.
So most of the video stuff would probably be with myself.
Okay.
Our other team member, Jasper, he has his own stuff as well. So just in case I'm not able to make a shoot for some reason, Jasper can go with Adam and do it. Our photographer has all his own gear. It's interesting because when we started this ministry, there was no money involved. So it was kind of like volunteering, but people weren't just volunteering their time. They were volunteering their mics, their cameras, their photography equipment. All of that stuff was kind of included in that as well. But over time, as the Lord has blessed, we've been able to build some things up for the ministry. But a lot of that is now located in California, where I live, because of I'm the person editing, and I'm doing a lot of the filming as well. But it kind of varies on what we have. Yeah.
You're full-time doing this.
Yeah, so as of this year, as of June 2024, I went full-time. Adam went full-time last year. Three-quarter time, January last year.
Yes.
So we kind of transitioned into this voluntary state, from voluntary into full-time, and obviously that takes a lot more resources and kind of a step out in faith. But as the ministry has grown and the Lord has blessed, we've been able to get to this point. It's been a blessing because it's been a lot of work, as you know, and everyone has been doing it in their own time. So most of us have got families and children and other jobs and other commitments, and just taking time to do this on the side to get it to this point. And then at one point it gets so big where you're like, okay, we can't keep doing two things.
No.
We have to focus our attention. And I think that's the stage we're moving towards right now.
Is it 501c3?
Yeah, so we're fully
Is it?
501c3 nonprofit in the US.
Very
So we
cool.
can issue tax-deductible receipts to anybody.
Wonderful,
Good for
wonderful.
people
That's
to
going to be
know.
good, because there are people that are saying, man, I just saw one of these episodes. We're going to get the other 299 and the continuations of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the website there also. But now we want to look a little bit about something that is very relevant to today, liberty of conscience threatened. We have like an 8-minute video. We're going to look at some of that.
Sure.
But just kind of talk about that a little bit, because sometimes people don't know about what that is.
Right.
Liberty of
Sure,
conscience.
that video is part of our Great Controversy series. It's chapter 35, I believe, in the book,
Yes.
Great Controversy, Liberty of Conscience Threatened. And like you say, it's a very relevant issue right now.
Oh, yeah.
As it's right now here in the United States, worldwide. These are pertinent issues. And so that chapter in particular, we wanted to make sure that chapter was filmed as good as we could. We filmed part of that on location in Rome, and we filmed part of that on location in Washington, D.C., outside the Congress, outside the Supreme Court, buildings that are, what takes place there may have an impact in the future. And so that episode, I think, is very pertinent, and that actually may play partly into what we may be doing in the future in terms of our future plans. We're looking at doing a whole series on that subject of liberty, of religious liberty, and how it's developed over time. So this
Not just in the US, but kind of around the world.
Around the world.
Yeah.
World. So it's in Washington, D.C., and where else?
we
You're
filmed
filming?
in Washington, was it
And Rome.
Washington or Rome, wasn't
And
it? Yeah.
Rome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to get a chance to look at, if we don't look at the whole thing, we're going to look at the greater part of it.
Yeah.
I think, and as Adam stated and Clive stated, this is an issue today that is challenging the world very much here in the United States.
Yeah.
Liberty of conscience threatened. Check it out.
During the 16th century, the Protestant Reformation made great strides in various countries in Europe, such as Germany, Switzerland, England, Scotland, and across Scandinavia. But here in France, it struggled to get going. There were great reformers who were French, such as John Calvin, but by and large, the Catholic Church was able to stay as the dominant power. And throughout the 15, 16, and 1700s, the Protestants were persecuted. One example of this is St. Bartholomew's Massacre, where many thousands of Protestants were killed. Throughout the early 1700s, Europe's economy expanded, which also led to population growth, with it almost doubling during this time. The French population grew the most, going from 16 to 28 million, meaning it was the largest and most populated country in Europe at the time. However, by the end of the 1700s, the French economy took a hit. There were several factors to these. Among them was a crop failure and also a financial drain from France's heavy and prolonged involvement in the American Revolution. Another contributing factor was the departure of the Huguenots in 1685 after many of their rights as citizens were taken away. These persecuted Protestants contributed significantly to the economy, and their absence was a huge loss. At the time, Protestants and Jews were denied full state rights. Unemployment was also at an all-time high, and the gap between the rich and the poor continued to widen. Distrust in the church was also very high, and with a huge disparity between the classes, it eventually exploded into a full-on revolt against all those in authority, both the ruling classes and also those in religious authority. The Age of Enlightenment and the scientific revolution, led by men like Voltaire, Descartes, and Rousseau, among others, led to a suspicion of the church and distrust in religion in general. This was because France, more than any other country during the Reformation, was able to suppress the reading of the Bible. The Catholic Church retained a stranglehold on French society that the Reformation never had the chance to break. The suppression of the Bible in France during the French Revolution was prophesied in Revelation chapter 11, which says that the two witnesses, which contextually are the Old and New Testament, will be clothed in sackcloth, a reference to the Bible being sidelined and disregarded. Revelation 11 goes on to say that a beast would ascend out of the bottomless pit. In Bible prophecy, a beast means a nation or a kingdom, and this one would arise at the end of the 1260-year prophecy around the year 1798. Revelation 11 goes on to say that the great city is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. Egypt is a common reference to atheism in the Bible, for no other nation so blatantly defied God. Exodus 5 verse 2 says, "Who is Jehovah that I should obey him?" Sodom is a common reference to sexual immorality. We see both of these characteristics come to pass here in France when, starting in 1793, for the first time an assembly of educated men governing one of the largest nations in Europe, sitting in the building behind me, unanimously renounced belief and worship of a deity. Every nation has had their fair share of atheists, but France stands alone as a state which declared there is no God.
Wow, that is amazing. You know, we're looking at the segue of history. Talk about how that great controversy is broken up.
That's a good point, because if those who've read the book Great Controversy, it's kind of split into two halves. You've got the first 20 chapters that are historical. Talks about Luther, the Waldenses, and so on. And you've got the second half that are to talk about doctrinal issues and also future prophecy. And you may wonder, why are there kind of two halves to the book Great Controversy? Why is one half past and one half is kind of future? And I believe the reason is this, because it does talk about, in the book Great Controversy, about the end of time, how liberty of conscience will be threatened, how there'll be time of trouble, or, you know, Christians will go through a crisis. It explains all of that. And as you read those latter chapters, you can probably wonder, how will I live? How will I survive during that time period? Well, you can find the answer right in the book, because you can go back to the early chapters with the historical ones and say, these Christians lived during a time when liberty of conscience was threatened.
And here's what they did.
This is how they lived, and this is how, but not just what they did, this is more importantly how God protected them.
Amen.
This is how God led them. This is how God, you know, orchestrated their journey. So the first half is really case studies of how God led his people during a time when liberty of conscience was threatened. And then the later chapters are describing the future scenario of how we'll live. And so, to me, that's kind of how the book Great Controversy comes together.
The glue, that's the leading and following. And what you just saw was a snippet of the French Revolution, French Reformation, which was very significant to the segue of where the unfolding of the future things, kind of laying the groundwork for the liberty of conscience that's threatened. When you think about the French Revolution, we've read about that, and it's just a time where there was a great attempt to get rid of and extinguish God's word, just burn it in the streets.
And we can see that happening in society again today, to a certain degree. Maybe not as openly aggressive as that, but there's been a
covert
shift.
Rather underlying but obvious. We see. But now on the issue of liberty of conscience threatened, we want to go to that video now because for those of you in America and even in different parts of the world, you may be in a society where we travel quite a bit, and some of the things we could say in America, you can't say around the world. You can't say political things around the world like you can in America, and it's almost getting to the place in America where you are starting to get to the place where you can't say things here either, because what you believe and what you can say is being challenged, and this is what this video is about, liberty of conscience threatened.
Liberty of conscience is something to be treasured, for the opposite is always tyranny. Any time in history within a given nation or region that church and state have combined forces, it has always led to a decline in religious liberty and the freedom for individuals to act according as their conscience guides them. In this chapter, we look at the history of this subject from the Dark Ages through to the Reformation, and how even today it's at threat, perhaps more so than ever before. At the heart of the Great Controversy is the freedom to worship, to love Him freely, and yet as time draws to a close, these rights will be unceremoniously stripped away. The Constitution of the United States guaranteed liberty of conscience, and this is what made the United States unique as a nation, in that when it was formed, these principles were enshrined in the founding documents. This was not something copied from Western Europe or any other nation. Europe had, in fact, during the Dark Ages and the Reformation, been under the control of various religious persuasions that did not hold this as a cherished value. Roman Catholicism in the Middle Ages did not like any competition and ruled supreme in most countries in Europe, where the state was under the influence and control of the church. Those who opposed the dominant belief were marginalized and often persecuted in an attempt to bring them into line. Such a strategy is not like Christ. He never forces anyone to worship and only accepts worship that is freely given. This caused a response, and in the 16th century, Europe underwent a time of great upheaval and change. Religious reformations in England, Scotland, Switzerland, France, Germany, Sweden, and Denmark changed the landscape of those countries, both in the spiritual sphere and also in civil life. Each of these countries' reformations was closely tied to political independence, and while most of the change was good, some things remained unchanged. Even though these nations broke away from the rule of the Holy Roman Empire, each church was often still influenced by the state. Anytime the church has sought the long arm of the state for support, the end result has always seen religious legislation enforced. Most significantly, this took place in the early centuries, from the time of Constantine onwards, as Sunday legislation was gradually enforced. This did not happen overnight, but came in slowly through the use of superstition and false claims until it became widespread, with only small pockets of believers, such as the Waldensians in Europe or the Abyssinians in Ethiopia, holding out. The end result of both of these groups is a sad and painful one. Revelation 13 outlines two beasts or two nations, and we see this fulfilled with the United States of America and also with Papal Rome. Papal Rome, it was prophesied, would receive a deadly wound and go into captivity around 1798, and we see this fulfilled with the capture of the Pope and also, more importantly, the stripping of Rome's civil power. It was prophesied, though, that the deadly wound would be healed, as Revelation 13 verse 3 says, all the world would wander after the beast. As the US has grown in its cultural, economic, political, and religious significance, the Bible outlines a time when she would unite with Rome in enforcing religious practices. Today we can see liberty of conscience under threat, freedom of speech, and laws that protect it have slowly been eroded away. We see this coming from both the overreach of government powers, but also from the prevailing culture in society, whereby it lends itself to groupthink and cancel culture, where anyone who does not accept the view of the majority can be cut off. May we fight for the preservation of liberty of conscience, even while we're seeing it eroded away. But also remember that one day we'll have to stand for what's right whilst the whole world is against us. May we have courage and trust and faith in Jesus Christ to do this.
Wow.
That was good.
The modern interpretation of where we're headed today, lineage.
Yeah.
That is a significant topic. When you, and I know you pray over all the programs that you tape, but just revisiting the whole idea of liberty of conscience threatened, we see it all around the world.
Yeah, it's a present issue. I think the idea of other people thinking different to you,
right,
and you being okay with that. Increasingly in society, we're not seeing that.
No.
I mean, one of the modern things is cancel culture. I'll cancel you because you believe different to you. And this idea that we can't even engage with people that disagree with us anymore, and
you can't.
And it's going to get worse and worse, I think. And we have to, you know, treasure the principle, the biblical principle of freedom, of where God gives us freedom and we give freedom to other people as well.
Yeah, and there's certain topics that are just becoming almost, they were hot issues, we used to call them hot issues in the past, but now they're like hot topics, there you go. But now it's like, don't talk about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you'll instantly be ostracized and maligned unjustly.
Politically correct.
And the whole thing about being politically correct. You make a statement that's scripturally correct, but all of a sudden it's not politically correct. It's like the cry against you is amazing.
Times we're living in.
Now let's talk about the Suki school in Australia.
Oh, I mentioned that story.
He did. He
mentioned
it.
That was the one about the. Did I mention that? I think
yeah, you did.
That was the one about the students who came.
Oh,
students.
That miracle. That's right.
But we last year we were at a Christian festival. It wasn't Adventist. It was just a Christian evangelical music festival. Actually, it's called Big Church Day out in England. And so we thought, let's go there. You know, broaden our reach outside of our immediate community. And we had some interesting stories there. Some of the people who came up to the stand, one of them was a he was a former atheist.
Oh.
Who became a Christian through his self-study. He then was given a book, Great Controversy, by some Adventists who were handing it out on the street in the city that he was in.
Yes.
He read the Great Controversy. He was really deeply impacted by it, passed it on to one of his friends, and then he decided to go and study for the ministry in the Church of England, to be a Church of England reverend or pastor.
Right, right.
And so then he was at this music festival, and then he sees our stand, but he didn't know about the book Great Controversy, but he saw some of our T-shirts. We got some kind of funny, quirky T-shirts, like with Martin Luther that say nailed it and things like that. So he came over because of the T-shirts, and then he saw the book Great Controversy. He's like, oh, I've read this book. And then he started talking with the team, and they started sharing about the Sabbath and sharing with him about that. And he was studying for the ministry, and he said, oh, I'd love to share this with my professors. And he's like, oh, my professors are in the other tent. Let's go and talk to them. So it just enabled this opportunity for witnessing with them and sharing with the professors. Obviously, they disagreed, but they got a chance to share about the Sabbath with them. And our team members have stayed in contact with him throughout his study, and just those doors open opportunities for conversations, for building relationships and questions, and seeing where the seeds may fall outside.
Amen. You're planting the seeds. I like that.
There's another quick story that we have where, season 1 was all about the Reformation, and we kind of continued the Reformation into Adventist history. We had someone comment at the end of our season 2, which is Adventist history. She commented on the very last video, and she said, I actually started watching you guys in season 1, and I was not an Adventist. I was just a Christian who was seeking truth. She watched through all of season 1 on the Reformation. Then she was like, well, I should continue watching season 2. So she went through Adventist history, and she saw how Adventist history came after the Reformation. It was like a continual journey. She ended up finding a local Adventist church. She did. And she ended up getting baptized after study. And she wrote the whole testimony in one of our videos at the end. And I thought that was powerful, that, the reason they're structured is that people can go on this journey, every single week and just, build upon one story from another story, and they're all connected. And you get to this point where you're like, wow, this is the true church.
Amen.
That's
beautiful. This is a question that goes with, what we're talking about. It says, this is from Michelle in Tennessee. What were both of your thoughts when you filmed on Ascension Rock? Also, the filming of the field where Hiram Edson received the most holy place vision. So they want to know, what were your thoughts, both of you?
I'll let Adam go because I just had a baby, so I missed that trip.
I've
been to Ascension Rock, but a different time. But you can probably.
It's a special place. I've been there before that time, so it wasn't my first time when I filmed there. But it holds a special place in Adventist history, and we're just a few days past the 180th anniversary of it. And it's a place where there was great disappointment at the time, and you read the stories of people weeping and crying, and for days on end, but yet God had a purpose in that pain, and He had an appointment with His people, and so it was a special place to film. It's one of my favorite places. It's isolated. It's in the countryside, and you can just imagine. You try and imagine what it would have been like to have that great hope.
I know.
And then the disappointment. But then the words of Revelation 10, verse 11 that says, thou must prophesy again.
That's right.
Amen.
And those words echo to us today.
Amen.
And really from when I stood there, and I'm thinking of those words, thou must prophesy again. And that's kind of the added impetus for us to keep doing that today.
What's the movie that's out again on Ellen White?
Tell the World, I think.
Tell the World.
The Hopeful,
The Hopeful, it's called. But this was 180 years, right?
Just yesterday or 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Matter of fact, Sabbath, my message my sermon is entitled "No More Delay,"
It's all about
I'm walking through Adventist history. The formation, I did a worship here at 3 ABN on that just Tuesday past. But it's interesting when you could follow your lineage. No pun intended here. When you could look at the path of how God leads and how He has led and how He continues to lead, it gives you confidence to say. For example, if you're driving from here to California and you're looking at your map, you say, well, I'm not sure that where we're headed is that direction, but based on the map, we're moving in the right place.
Right.
The footsteps of the pioneers, the footsteps of our journey are significant. And here's another question before we're going to talk about AI in just a moment, here, because AI is the generation we're living in. It says, when Constantine merged Christianity with the Roman Empire, Catholicism became the church. Then Protestants from that. But were there any Christians from first century Christians that survived without going through this path?
Okay, good question. I think where the question is coming from, Terry, thank you for the question.
Thank you, Terry from Ohio.
When Constantine merged with Christianity, Christianity really became corrupted and compromised, and lots of practices came in that weren't biblical and Christianity becomes watered down. And the question says, were there any true
Christians that survived?
Any Christians that survived, or I read that as were there any like Christians that never got sucked up into that compromise? And I think, yes, there were, historically there were. And some of those groups that, I mean, biblically, Ellen, I mean, the Bible talks about the church in the wilderness.
That's right.
And so it wasn't the visible, dominant mainstream church.
Right.
It was literally in the wilderness because they were being persecuted a lot of the time. Some of those groups are the Waldensians. There was also the Celtic church in Scotland and Ireland and the western part of England. These were some pockets of believers that were often persecuted, but still maintained a pure biblical truth as they knew, and maintained that in often isolation and in the wilderness. And so if Terry's not familiar or people aren't familiar, check out some of the Lineage episodes on the Waldenses, on the Celtic Church, and those are some of the groups that maintained the faith during the Dark Ages. When Christianity had become corrupt and compromised.
And you know, the good thing about that as a pastor, you read Revelation 12 where it says, the earth opened its mouth and helped the woman. When the serpent poured water out of his mouth like a flood to cause the woman to be washed away by the flood, we understand that was the persecution that was pursuing the church, but the earth opened its mouth and helped the woman and swallowed up the flood that was being poured out after her. In other words, God intervened to keep the woman safe and preserve her to this particular point. Now, looking at the evolution of technology, let's talk about AI, and we're going to look at a snippet of that. Artificial intelligence.
Yeah, so, you know, probably in November last year, I got a message from a professor that I was a good friend with, and he sent me this message, and he said, have you seen this new technology? And I was like, no, I hadn't seen it, and I watched a demo, and it was this guy speaking English, but then his language changed, and he was speaking in a different language, and then it changed again, and he ended up speaking like 9 different languages in like the space of 30 seconds. So I started experimenting with this stuff, and I got some snippets of Adam, and I was just doing 30-second videos in like 20 different languages, and I started sending it to people all around the world. Like, hey, does this sound accurate? People would come back to me and say, yeah, there's some slight errors, but it's 90% there, 95% there, which is pretty good. Now, for our Advent message, we can't deal with 95%.
Right.
We have to deal with 100% accuracy.
That's right.
Right.
So we started working with translators who are helping us, and they're checking these videos before we generate them, and basically turning Adam's voice into a different language. So we did some tests. I created a whole video in Portuguese, and I put it on a YouTube channel, and we went off filming in Europe in, I think, April or May, and I didn't check the YouTube channel. And I came back, and all of a sudden, one of our videos had 35,000 views in Portuguese, and it was actually on the Waldenses. And I was thinking, wow, there's a real desire and need and hunger around the world for this stuff, and we can use this technology to start translating, especially the Great Controversy, that's the project we're working on first, into multiple different languages. So right now we've set up YouTube channels in Portuguese, Spanish, Russian, Ukrainian, Hindi, Mandarin, and the list goes on. We're growing as we go.
We have help.
Matter of fact, I went to your website, and there's a tab you click down and you start choosing the different languages.
You can choose the language, and you can donate to that specific language. If you're from that particular country, maybe you have a burden to reach out to your fellow people, you can support that particular project. It's very inexpensive compared to the traditional way of doing it.
Compared to nowadays.
We can do one episode for about $100. Whilst, you know, if you were to take that episode, rent out a studio, hire out someone to record it, translate it, the cost is exponential, right?
Yes.
So we've been able to do a much cheaper way and for a very good quality, and checked by Adventists to know that it's accurate.
That's right.
Exactly.
Is what's really important.
Now, go ahead, tell them. 3ABN's doing that, aren't we?
Right. 3ABN is using AI on some of the sermons and some of the camp meetings. You could see the same person preaching in different languages. Even I in different languages. And we just did a series in New York City with Pastor Batchelor on Amazing Facts, where they had 17 simultaneous translations through AI. And that was, I mean, the Lord is giving us a technology that we could use to advance the gospel.
Right.
Yes.
So when people say, be careful with AI, there's some positive benefits to technology that we are responsible for
And we
using.
should use.
Yeah.
We need to use that.
Yeah.
Now, you have a snippet of that. Let's look at this 48-second clip.
Yeah, so we got Adam speaking in a number of different languages, so yeah, you can check it out. And
Lineage is using some groundbreaking translation technology to get this message para levar esta mensagem ao maior número possível de pessoas em todo o mundo. Nous avons réalisé plus de 200 épisodes et avem traducerea acestora într-o singură limbă ne-a costat între 10.000 și 15.000 de dolari. 우리는 프랑스어, 독일어, 일본어, 스페인어, 힌디어, 중국어, 아랍어로 번역하고 싶습니다. Если вы refused желание проспонсировать перевод одного или даже всех роликов, Василиана Наси Тунганин Конок Фитиша Уджунда Худумиани Корте. Thank you for your support.
Wow, wow. So not only is it in a different language, but your mouth is moving.
Yeah, it's
with
synced.
it.
That's the thing that really makes it different to previous
Yes.
previous technology, and even some still available, is that it takes the whatever, you know, when you do scan your phone or whatever that template, it takes that and it
Manipulates
rejigs your
all.
face, and it does
Mouth.
it lips the,
Yeah.
sinks the lips.
Sinks it.
Not like the old Chinese karate movies.
No. So you had delay.
exactly, exactly. No, it's really accurate.
Nothing
It's
like
come a
that.
long, long way.
Some of the languages the lip syncs better than others, but generally it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So how many languages did you go through here on this one?
And this video, I think we went through 5 or 6, maybe 7. I don't remember the top of my head.
Our goal or our hope is to be able to translate Lineage into some languages that would hit, say, the 1040 window.
Oh, yes.
So we could put the episodes into Arabic.
Yes.
We could put them into some Tamil
Mandarin.
or Hindi, Mandarin, and we could put it into some of those languages and hit
Yes.
parts of the world that we can't hit, and also other languages that would hit, you know, the Spanish-speaking world or
Yes.
French and so on. So that's really our goal with that, is to evangelistically spread it around the world.
It's in Spanish too.
And Spanish, yeah.
Yeah,
We've
it's
done some
Yes.
Spanish and
Into all the
Portuguese.
world, aren't we going? Yeah.
Into all the world, and the confidence is, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world. Now, your website, we're going to mention this again, is lineagejourney.com. As it sounds, the lineage, there it is on the screen, lineagejourney.com, and you'll get a chance to visit that website and save it. Bookmark it, because it's going to be a place where you'll see resources that will just grab you and guide you through the Word of God in powerful ways.
Those books are on there?
The books
Those
are on
books are
there,
on there, right?
T-shirts and other
And
resources
T-shirts
are on there.
too.
Yeah.
And on the website we have, I mean, some people can go to the YouTube channel as well with just the videos, but on the website, in addition to the videos and the resources, there's a lot of articles on there that we've written. There's probably about 400 different articles on there.
Wow.
So if you're at home as a mother or a father with your child and you're studying through something, or
Right.
maybe homeschool, home education, if you're a teacher and you're looking for resources, there's a lot of articles that mirror every episode we've done in addition to extra ones as well. So there's a lot of written materials there that can help you personally learn or help teach someone else as well.
And some people often say to us, oh, can you make the videos longer?
Oh.
Well, the whole point for us is that we're trying to grab your attention
Exactly.
and give you the most important information to then go and study for yourself.
There you
So
go.
that's why we have the rest of the information on our website. We have book references, we have photos, more archaeological information to kind of get someone who really wants to study it into more detail.
That's really, really good. Now, 2 things I want to accomplish. Let's just show also the English reformers in Portuguese. Is the woman in 20? Is
An
that
example
part-
of the AI,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
let's
So this is an example of once we put the episode together, what it looks like in terms of changing the graphics, changing the language, changing everything into that language.
Okay, let's look at that.
Enquanto a reforma avançava na Alemanha, França, Suíça e Escandinávia, as Ilhas Britânicas também passaram por uma grande mudança nos anos 1500. Vários líderes que Deus usou para trazer mudanças surgiram, como William Tyndale, John Knox, Thomas Cranmer, Hugh Latimer e Nicholas Ridley, para citar apenas alguns. Cada um deles é único e tem sua própria história, mas um fio comum une a todos. Cada um deles se esforçou ao máximo para ser fiel ao entendimento da palavra de Deus e também para ter uma consciência guiada pelas convicções da palavra de Deus. John Wycliffe preparou a reforma do século XVI com suas posições doutrinárias sobre a transubstanciação, os sacramentos e a justificação pela fé. Sua tradução faria progressos significativos, mas a Comissão de Oxford, de 1408, proibiria sua tradução, entre outras traduções da Bíblia.
Now, I know you're listening, but if you look at the intonations, look at the inflections, the way your mouth is moving, it's all...
Everything's synced.
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing technology.
Pretty amazing.
Who would have known this 2 years ago you could do this?
I know.
Now, when we look at the library of what you already have, now people might say, well, what's your future plans? You've got over 300 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when you start thinking about the AI advantage that could be added to that, that's going to be quite a project, quite an engagement. That takes finances. Talk about some of the future projects and then let our audience know ways that they could sponsor and how they could participate financially.
I mean, one of the future projects is the AI, is to continue translating that into various languages. We want to start with Great Controversy and then go to some of the other ones. Another 2 projects we've got in the immediate pipeline. We have a series on 1888. The time before it, 1888, and the time after it. It's a 12-part series. We've already filmed that. That's going to be coming out in November, December, January. Be released then. And then our next project for next year is going to be a series. I'm not sure what the exact title is going to be, but essentially it's going to be on women in Christian history. So we've already done the Reformation, but we really mainly covered men and other events. So we've kind of gone back over a similar time period, and we're covering some of the characters in history that don't get as much spotlight. One of our team members, Suki, she wrote a book called Sisters in Arms, which was, she highlighted 8 women of the Reformation. And so we kind of took that book and then we enlarged on that. And it's going to be a 30-part series.
30
is the plan. And we're sharing some interesting stories like Katharina von Bora, who was Martin Luther's wife, and Queen Catherine Parr, which fascinating stories, yeah. And she escaped from a nunnery in a fish barrel, and then she essentially proposes to him because she can't be a single. Anyway, fascinating story.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
So that's going to be our series next year, Women in Christian History, and we'll have a podcast.
You've teased us enough to look forward to it. That's really, really good.
And this isn't just the Reformation. We're covering some as far back as I think the early 100s. And we're going to a lady called Perpetua in Tunisia, who really stood up. Another fascinating story. So we've got a whole range of different things that we're covering.
I love this, women. Go ahead.
I know that. I mean, ladies are going to just say, "Hey," start translating this into different languages. That's going to be phenomenal. Now let's talk about the way that people that are watching and listening to the program can participate financially.
How?
And be as specific as you can. What are some of the not only the projects, but some of the needs, because I know that equipment evolves and things that need to be taken. So I'll just kind of throw that out to you guys. Or how they can participate in some of the things that might be.
Yes.
I mean, the Lord has really blessed us. You know, the Lord has impressed people to give over the time period that Lineage has been going. And for that, we're really thankful. We've been thankful for the support of people that have given to us. When people, and the Lord's impressed people, some people give on a monthly basis. They've gone to our website, they've signed up, and they've donated monthly, and that's really been helpful.
On the website.
You know, sometimes it's small, a lot of time it's $10, it's $20, and people give on a monthly basis, and that really does help give us a little bit of stability. And then other people give, you know, one-off donations. They go to the website, lineagejourney.com/give, and people have donated out, you know, the generosity of their heart. Sometimes it's just they've been impressed by and they give, and other people have given to, you know, a specific project, and it's really helped because Clive took the step of faith. You know, he's got 4 children and a wife, and to go full time, and really had a burden and a passion to do this. I myself am 3/4 time, and the rest of the team are, you know, they're volunteers. They help out. You know, they take holidays to go on the trip, on the trips and so on, and so we're really supported by the generosity of those who who appreciate them and recognize the importance of understanding our identity and how that connects to our purpose and our mission today. So a lot of people, you know, they give through our website, whether it goes to our equipment that we need to update on regular times, whether it goes to help us, you know, kind of, you know, live from day to day.
Which is necessary.
Yeah, it goes to fund some of the trips, because the filming trips aren't cheap when you're flying to the countries, and you've got the logistics of the flights and the filming and so on. So
custom clearance, all that.
All that kind of stuff. So when people give it goes a long way. And
even insuring the equipment that you have.
Right,
because,
exactly.
You know, you have stuff that you use that you just don't go out and just replace that overnight.
Yeah.
Although that's something. Now, generally, what would you say is the average cost if you were to put all those factors together of one episode? This is just something that I don't know if you plan.
It's really hard to tell because it depends on the location.
Right.
True.
Yeah,
You're right.
it depends where we're going. I mean, if we're doing Adventist history, it's over here in the US. It's cheap for me to get there, well, cheaper for me to get there than some of the other people around the world. But I can tell you the cost to translate an episode is about $100 into a different language. But I don't know, maybe you could give some insight on that. It's really a difficult one.
if you're putting together, say, a 15-part series, roughly, it's, I don't know, it's...
Good. Be brave.
Be brave.
Yes.
It can be 60, 70,000 sometimes.
60 or 70,000.
Thousand.
Sometimes more, yeah, sometimes 100,000.
By the time you add the logistics costs, the travel costs, the
Oh,
filming
yes.
costs, the equipment costs,
Yes.
the editing costs,
That's right.
all that
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
stuff.
And the reality of it is, nothing is free.
Right.
And time is not free. The end product you
And we want to do it top quality, you know. You can do an iPhone video, but it doesn't have the same effect
Nah.
as...
No, you don't want to insult producers like and people that are behind the camera. They'll say, an iPhone does a good job if you're walking through the airport,
Right.
just quick things.
You want to give the Lord your best.
You want to give the Lord your best, and so you are a 501c3.
We are, yeah. We just registered about a year ago.
Wonderful.
Good.
In the US. Before that, we had,
And the website is lineagejourney.com. There are links there where
Yeah, you can. There's the shop there. There's the watch. There's the read, and there's the give section. There's the language section as well. Yeah. So it's all on the website.
And we can always send in checks as well. We have a postal address.
Open checks too.
and that's on the website.
That's on the website, and I think we have a screen for that as well.
Is there a phone number too?
There's a phone number too. Yep.
Okay.
I don't know
There it
off by
is.
heart, but it should be on the
Lineage.
screen.
There's your phone number right there. 530. That's definitely California.
California
number.
number.
That might be your phone number. That might be closely associated with you.
Yeah.
But so if you were to say anything to those who are watching and listening to the program, what would you say to motivate them
Look
to
to the
really
camera.
to really participate in Lineage for the future? Your camera
Your
is right
camera.
there.
My camera's right there. You come in as well, Clive. What would I say? Lineage. I believe the world's going through an identity crisis today. And Lineage seeks to help people understand who they are, their mission, their purpose, their identity, and where they're going through understanding where they come from. And we're just trying to help create resources to translate the written material into a video resource, into a medium that they can consume and watch on a regular basis, and just help guide people today as to understand who they are, their God-given purpose in this world, and what God has put them in this world to do, and where to go. And Lineage seeks to help people in that mission, and we appreciate your support in helping us to do that.
Well, thank you, Adam Ramdin, executive producer, and Clive Coutet, which is the media director. And we want to thank your team,
Your
the
team
entire
also.
team.
Yeah, they would have loved to have been here, all of them, but
tell you.
you know,
Yeah.
I know they're cheering
we're
you on.
scattered around the world. And,
Yes.
And pray that the Lord will
ministry.
impress you. This ministry is, you can't put a
Top
dollar
notch.
amount to it. And those of us who are here at 3ABN know that you can't just say this is the amount. But we want to pray that you'll be moved by the Lord to support Lineage, because one day we'll look back and realize the reason why I know Jesus better is because of what I've learned through this ministry. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. We've enjoyed you being here. Until next time, may God continue to bless you.
Amen.